Hello everyone, this is Serious Trivia. Welcome to a Better Commandery Guide video, and today we'll be talking about the effects of population on income in patch 1.5. So previously in our patch rundown videos, we talked about how the new population effect impacted the game as a whole. And from the patch notes, we see that population now have the following effects reworked and added. Populations now increase all income, not just peasantry. Population now increases food production. Population now grants additional construction per turn once over 1 million. And assignments and buildings that increase conscription now also decrease population. And assignments and buildings that increase population by a large amount now decrease adjacent commandery population due to migration, with the exception of the wood buildings or the land development buildings. So we're not going to focus on every aspect in this video. The only aspect I'm interested in, as with all of our Better Commandery Guide video, we're going to be focusing mostly on income. And we're going to focus on how this population now impacts all income rather than just peasantry. Because it used to be, when you had population only affect peasantry income, it went from a scale of 0% to 350%, and that's no longer the case. You can see on the charts here, now the percentages go from 0 to 200% for all income. And this chart is possible thanks to my Discord user, Sad Panda, who did all the testing for the population number in his game as he checked commanderies slowly growing in population to see where all the breakpoints for the various percentages are. So a big shout out to him for providing this data to me. I didn't check all the math. I just basically went into one of my games and spot checked all the populations that I had and to see if it correlated with what he had. And it seems to check out, so I'm going to trust him here. And the numbers we have here goes from 50K to 100K, where it's like 15%. And then they make these weird jumps after each 100K all the way till 800K. Then you get about a 200K jump per tier, and then a 300K jump, and then a 400K jump, and so forth. It's really random. The percentages also increase by random increments, 3%, 4%, 3%, 2%. It's like all over the place. So it's very helpful to see the exact break that you can have from different population limits and kind of make that decision of how tall you want to build your commandery and how rewarding it is when you do increase your commandery size from a small city to a city, per se, and to see how much percentage of income to all sources you might get, and whether it's worth going for that final tier of 200% when you're at 5.71 million to the maximum amount of 9 million population in a commandery. So we're going to be using this chart in this guide to kind of see where is a good balance that we can achieve in our builds. So the four commandery size that we're going to be mainly focused on are the small city, city, small regional city, and regional city. Now these four are picked because they correlate to the building slots. So small city, you get your third building slot. At city, you get your fourth building slot. Small regional city give you your fifth, and regional city give you your sixth. So in a sense, these are the most common tiers of settlements that you should be thinking about. And normally in most of our old builds, when we did, city and regional city are the two most popular builds because there's relatively little cost for you to upgrade from a small city to a city, and you get that extra slot. You don't get much punishment in terms of food production. And then if you're going to upgrade your city to tall, like you already made up your mind to hit small regional city to get the level 5 upgrades for most of the buildings, you might as well upgrade one more time to get that extra slot so you can add an extra level 5 building into your settlement to help boost your income overall. And the population capacity that associate themselves with all four of these tiers are 800K, 1 million, 2 million, 3 million. But this is not the total population of your commandery, because you have to remember counties can attribute up to 500K population per county. And depending on how many counties you have in that commandery, you can be adding upwards of 500K to 1.5 million population to each of these commandery settlements. So you kind of have to keep that in mind and keep that range when you're talking about how much population you can get in a whole commandery, which is what we're exactly going to look at next. So this is what happens when you add 500K to 1.5 million to each of these population capacities. So this correlates to, commanderies that has only one county to commanderies that have 3 counties. 3 counties will be 1.5 million, 1 county, which at least every commander in the game have 1 county. So the base is at least plus 500k more population to your population capacity. So for the small city, we have anywhere from 1.3 million to 2.3 million population maximum, and that correlates to 48% increase to all income source to 75% increase to all income source. And when you move on to the city, it goes up just a little bit from 1.5 million to 2.5 million. And because of that very small increase, you actually don't see any change with the percentages that you get from a small city to a city. So outside of the extra building slot, which will help your income, you're not actually going to have much differences in terms of what you get from your population. Small regional cities where things start making jumps because you have 2.5 million to 3.5 million population, and the percentages you see here are now from 75% to 105%. And if we upgrade the settlement one more time, you get an extra 1 million to most of your caps. So you get 3.5 million to 4.5 million, and that corresponds to 105% to 150%, which is pretty close to the maximum. And that's a relatively good place if you can get close to that 4.5 million mark to get that 150%. But if you are thinking about maximizing this population bonus, you might want to rethink your strategy. Because if you look at the math here, after the regional city, there are only 2 more settlement upgrades, and that's the large regional city and the imperial city. And if we look at the next 3 tiers within the chart of percentages, populations from 4.21 million or anything above 4.2 million to 4.6 million is 150%. So the previous 4.5 million nested perfectly within that range. But if you want to move it up, you need 4.61 million to 5.7 million, and that's 180%. And if we look at the population cap on a large regional city, that's 4 million population cap. And if you want it to be above 4.61 or 4.6, you need at least 2 counties to go along with this to boost it to 180%. But if you look at the math for the maximum 200%, which is 5.71 million to 9 million, you can't achieve this with a large regional city. Because even if you have a large regional city with 3 counties, that's a maximum of 5.5 million population. So if you want to see the maximum percentage of income to all sources from population, you need to have an imperial city. And imperial cities are very expensive to upgrade to and also cost you a lot of food. But let's assume all those are non-factors for you and you just want to have this really impressive imperial city pumping out income, then you need to just upgrade tall and just go for it. 46 food from distribution. You do get 100 base income from peasantry back, as well as a very impressive 150% income from commerce, which is a huge jump from the large regional city, which only have 75%. So one of these days, we'll actually do a video where we build out the most lucrative commandery possible and showcase that commandery in a build, see how much income we can pump out with this new population difference. But just keep in mind, if you're going for the maximum amount of income from all sources from population, you need an imperial city. It doesn't matter how many counties you have. If you have the imperial city, you reach the population needed to get that 200%. Now, growing that population does take some work. You're going to need an administrator with high resolve. You're going to need as many items that can help you boost population as possible just to get it going faster. Maybe a labor building, maybe a land development building. But the question at the end of the day is it worth it, right? So let's make a little test to see how much more income we're getting from a regional city to an imperial city, let's say. So picking one of the most lucrative commanderies in the game, Jianye, which has a harbor building and a salt mine and a copper mine, one of the most lucrative place you can have in the game. And we take a test on this commandery, starting with a regional city, and using a very standard build of having a harbor building, an inn building, state workshop, private workshop, market wharf, and lastly, a land development building, which is a great choice in the new patch because it does provide you with food and it does provide you with population growth and a little bit of base peasantry income, which can be helped with this income multiplier to all sources. So very conservative build right here. And for the copper mine, you pick the version that reduces corruption faction-wide, which reduces the income potential by a little bit. So you see the 450 there. But in total, if you add up all the base income from various different sources, you get 220. And 220 will be applied to the population limit here, which would be 4 million because you have 2 counties plus a regional city of 3 million. So you have 4 million population, which will give you 120%. So if you multiply the 2,200 income by 1.2, you see that from this 120%, you can generate additional 2,640 income. And that amount is basically keeping all other factors the same. We're just testing the effects on the population effect to all income. And if we move this up into an imperial city with the same exact build, the only difference here is that the imperial city will give you 25 additional peasantry income. So the total income does increase to 2,225 and the multiplier increased to 200%. So if we do the math here, you get 4,450. And if you just take these two numbers and subtract them, the amount of incomes you have between an imperial city and a regional city is about 1,810 difference contributed just by the population effect. Obviously, if you move up the commandery level, you're also going to get the extra commerce income from just the settlement itself. So there are going to be some more differences. You're going to generate more than 1,810 income, but we're just seeing how much the percentage jump from the population would help you. But this is not the best test because you can maximize your commandery's income by foregoing a lot of the multiplier buildings if you're looking just for the difference with population effect. So you can give up some of your building percentages to kind of use just your population to boost your income. And in that case, what we have here is a completely different build. I do not recommend this build in your game, but I'm just saying this build is possible to quote unquote maximize your base income. And what we have here in a regional city is a harbor building, inn building, state workshop building, and then a palace building, which is your administrative office upgraded to tier 5. You can only build one of these in any of your commanderies, and they provide 500 base peasantry income. There is a 300 upkeep cost to it, but the upkeep costs are not hit by the multiplier. So it's not like you're only getting 200 from this building because the 500 peasantry income is going to get hit with a multiplier first, and then you subtract 300. So we can just kind of take the base income and use that for the multiplier effect. And then we can build a tax collection that gives 240 peasantry, as well as a land development that sells food for 300 more peasantry. And then give up the faction-wide corruption bonus on the copper mine for 500 industry income, and all in all we'll get 3,140 base income from this regional city build in Jianye. And then using this higher number and the 120% we have, you get 3,768 as income multiplier effect on the population that will give you from this base income. And taking the more extreme build to the imperial city level, what we have is additional 25 income from the imperial city in terms of peasantry, and then the 200% will give us 6,330. And if you take the difference between these two amounts just from the population effects, you're going to have a difference of 2,562 income per turn. These are all very relative numbers. It depends on, how big your empire is, whether you have corruption under control, whether you have enough food to both upgrade to imperial city as well as to sell food, whether you have a good administrator who can counteract the public order effects, which can bring down your population. But if you take everything in a vacuum, you can kind of see how big the effects are on your base income and whether you want to be upgrading your commandery all the way to an imperial city. Because honestly, if you are thinking about a commandery that doesn't have that much income potential, means it doesn't have that many counties, thus it's going to punish you in terms of population total, as well as the effects you will get from their base income that they contribute, you might not want to go so tall in most of your commandery. And I think this is kind of an idea that's reinforced in this patch in terms that relating population to all income source. You really only want to go tall in commanderies with very good income potential, and don't waste your money and time in those with only one counties that's not going to contribute very much in terms of base income to your whole economy. Now there are some exceptions to this, because you will have 3 county commanderies that will not have income generating counties. Let's say you're Chengdu, you have armor smith and a farmland. So even though you have 3 counties, only one of it is generating income for you. So the other 2 are contributing population, but still not worth that much to upgrade it. As a matter of fact, there are almost no 3 county commanderies where all 3 generate income. So you can kind of give up on the idea for that and focus on basically either 3 county commanderies with 2 income generators, where the third one's just contributing population, or you can just focus on something like Jianye with only 2 counties, but both counties being super high valued. Now, on the opposite end of the spectrum, you might have a 1 county commandery contributing huge amount of base income. So salt mines can generate up to 550. You have jade, which can generate a mix of commerce and industry. And obviously, you want to keep in mind that this multiplier effect does change the old balance from the previous game, where let's say Cangwu had huge amount of peasantry income, and previously population only boosted peasantry, so that you had huge income potential there. But peasantry relatively is a slightly lower total base income, if that makes sense, because industry income has the highest base income potential. So now with this boost to all income, stuff like silk and spice and industry are much more valuable. Before, it didn't really affect them at all. And commerce is always the king of multipliers, low base, huge multipliers from all the buildings. So this will always help them as well. So definitely sway the game in favor of more industry build, and also whatever generates the highest amount of base income. So you can definitely think about those things when you're building. And I hope this guide helps you out, and see you guys next time. Bye.